Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make sticky toffee pudding. This is a dessert, an English or a British dessert which was first created in the 1970s, and I have made it before and it's on my blog, but I've never done a video, so I thought now's the time to do it again, basically with a video to show you how to do it. And it's a nice spongy type of cake which has dates in it, which gives the stickiness into the cake or the pudding basically. And on top of that goes a toffee sauce. Some soaks into the cake and the rest is poured over the top. It's very, very tasty. In fact, it's many people's favourite dessert of all time, from what I understand, and I simply love it. I made it for my niece when I was in Canada one year, and she and her family thoroughly enjoyed it. So that's what I'm going to do today. I will also later on, in a few weeks or a couple of weeks, do some sticky toffee muffins. So the similar thing with the same flavours but in a muffin form with sauce poured over the top. So for this one I've started off by preheating my oven to 180 degrees Celsius. That's 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit. And I have greased an 8-inch square cake tin, and this is a fairly shallow one, and I've just greased that ready to take the cake batter. So I'll go on to the ingredients, and for the ingredients I have 130 grams of pitted dates which I've chopped up fairly small, and that works out at about 3/4 of a cup. I have 2 medium eggs, which would be large in the USA, 75 grams, which is 5 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon of unsalted butter, which is softened to room temperature. I have 100 grams of dark brown sugar, which is half a cup, and I have 165 grams, 1 cup plus 1.5 tablespoons of plain flour, based on scooping packed flour into a 250 milliliter cup. I also have half a teaspoon, 2 grams of baking soda, and that's going to go into the dates. I have 3/4 of a teaspoon, 3 grams of baking powder, 5 milliliters, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and about 1.5 grams, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I also have some water which is just boiled. So I'm going to put my dates into a bowl, and I just break those up a little bit with a fork because they've stuck together as they do. And over the top of that I'm going to sprinkle my baking powder like that, and then I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup, 180 milliliters of boiling water, and I'll do that off the camera because I'm going to weigh the amount of water. So that's fine like that. I'm just going to stir that around and set that to one side for it to cool down. And I'm going to let that cool for about 15 minutes, and then we'll make the cake batter. And before we actually do the cake batter, I will just mention the ingredients for the toffee sauce, which is 80 grams, 6 tablespoons minus 1 teaspoon of unsalted butter, 180 milliliters, 3/4 of a cup of double cream or heavy cream, 160 grams, 3/4 of a cup plus 2 teaspoons of dark brown sugar, and onto that I've also put 1/4 of a teaspoon, 1.5 grams of salt, and then I have 40 grams, 2 tablespoons of golden syrup. If you don't have golden syrup, you could use corn syrup, or you could use black treacle molasses. That would work just as well, but it would give a slightly stronger flavour to the sauce. So to make the cake batter, I'm going to use my hand mixer. You can do it by hand or you can do it in a stand mixer, it's up to you. I'm going to put my 100 grams of dark brown sugar into a bowl. I'm just going to break it up a little bit, and I'm going to add my 75 grams of butter as well. Which is nice and soft, and I'm going to cream those together until they're all combined, and they should be nice and fluffy. So that's mixed in quite nicely. So then I'm going to add the eggs one at a time, and I'm going to beat those until they're combined. I'll add the vanilla as well. And then I'll just leave that for one moment while I put the salt and the baking powder into the flour. And I'm just going to give that a little mix around. That's to get those combined into the flour. And then I'm going to pour that into the wet mixture, and I'm going to mix that around. And with that mixed in quite nicely, I'm then going to put my dates with the baking soda and the water in as well, and I'm going to mix those until they're combined. And they're actually combined quite nicely. I'm just going to scrape down to make sure that I've got it all worked in together. And then I'm going to pour that into my prepared cake tin. And that automatically levels, as you can see. So I'm going to put that into the oven, and I'm going to bake that for 25 minutes. And at that time it should be fully baked. I'll test it with a skewer. It's likely to rise a little bit in the centre, but that's fine. And then once that's baked, I'll take it out of the oven, and I'll come back and we'll make the sauce and put the sauce on the top and serve it. As the cake bakes, what I'm going to do is to make the sauce. So I'm going to put my butter into a saucepan, and I'm going to put in the other ingredients as well, the sugar and the salt and the double cream and the golden syrup. And with all the ingredients in, I'm going to put those onto the heat and heat them until everything is melted and combined. And once it's melted and combined, and I will stir it as it's doing that, I'm then going to just let it simmer for a couple of minutes, and then I'll take it off the heat and it will be ready to use on our cake. So that has melted, as you can see, and I'm going to leave that to simmer for 2 minutes, and then I'm going to pour it into a jug so that we can use it when the cake is ready. I baked the cake for 25 minutes and I tested it with a skewer and it came out clean, so I've taken it out of the oven now and I have my sauce prepared. So this is what the cake looks like in the tin, and it's risen nicely. It's got a bit of a crack and that's fine, and I'm going to take a skewer and I'm going to poke holes over the surface where there's the cracks. I won't bother because that will serve the purpose. Like that. And then I'm going to take about half a cup of the sauce and I'm going to pour that over the top. Like that. And I'm going to just take a brush and brush that to cover the surface. Like that. And I'm going to leave that for it to soak in just a little bit for a few minutes, and then I'll come back and we'll have a taste of it. We'll cut it and we'll have a taste of it. So I left that sticky toffee pudding for about 3 minutes, and then I cut it into 8 pieces. So I cut it down the centre once and then 4 across to make 8 pieces. And I've taken some out and put it onto a plate, and this is what it looks like with some of the remaining sauce poured over the top. It looks very appetizing, I have to say, and I have another plate of it here, so I'll have a taste of it. It's very, very good. The cake is nice and moist, and with the date flavour is lovely and sweet, and then that gorgeous sticky toffee sauce that goes over the top is wonderful. Now, you could make this cake and leave it for a day and then put the sauce on it if you wanted to. You can also make the sauce in advance, so this can be done a day before you need it if you want to, and it works well. Just warm the sauce up or something before you pour it over the top. So very, very good, perfect for a dessert, often served in this country with some ice cream as well, or some custard. I've seen people with custard as well, but ice cream will go very well with this. So I hope you've enjoyed the recipe, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for this recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.